everybody, and welcome back to Godnext Gaming and some Space Engineers, our noob guide for the Xbox One. You can see our little Land Rover here that we built in the last episode. Kind of added some stuff to it here to kind of make it look a little bit nicer of a vehicle. I mean, it's not fantastic, but I've never said that I was an artist. So, yeah. But just some armament to kind of protect some of the pieces that are on there. The batteries did die on it. I was working on getting a connector going to connect it to the base to start charging it, and eventually I'm going to plop a large battery on here and not the small ones. I just did that just to kind of show you guys, so I didn't have to go grind for so many resources. What we're going to do in this episode now is we got our platforms ready to go, is we're going to go ahead and build ourselves our first atmospheric miner. So we're going to get that rolling here, and in order to build this, you're going to need some atmospheric thrusters, you're going to need a battery, you're going to need a cargo container, and other accoutrements like a couple of drills, and things like that to get this guy rolling. But what we want to start with here is our cockpit for the ship. So we're going to use the regular standard cockpit here. We're not going to use the fighter one. Reasons because less resources to get it built, right? You need the DLC for the industrial one. I don't know how it differs. I've never used it, but you need the DLC for that. I do not have that, so we're going to start with this guy here. And we're going to go ahead and plop that down on top of our block there. And we're going to flip that around a couple times so it's facing that way to start building it. And yeah, so there is a large port on the bottom of this, and then there is the two smaller ports on the back of this here. So we'll get that rolling right there. And then we're going to like I said, we're going to need a couple other pieces here. You're going to need at least one battery. You'd probably want to put the cargo container on here and then place a connector. The connector is that guy right over there, so you can connect it to the base. We'll probably put one on the bottom, and then we'll connect the connector somehow to the large cargo container on the top there, so we can kind of mount up and get everything that's all of our resources that we've drilled and mined for. We can get them into the base pretty easily with the connector. Next step here is going to be our cargo container. We'll get our cargo container on here. We'll probably use the small 1x1 here. It'll probably give us about 15,000 on this guy. Don't want anything too heavy, but we want something big enough that we can kind of work with here to get enough stuff for us, right? So alright, so I'm back. I just had to go grab some interior plates. I'm going to do this a little bit differently, being that we're using the regular cockpit here. What we want to do is we want to be able to get the cargo container on here, and that 1x1 is not going to work for us, really, so I made a mistake with that. But we're going to do a little bit of a different design here. We're going to take small conveyors, and we're going to put them to the back of the cockpit here, being that we have a oxygen-rich environment. We're able to kind of like pump oxygen into the cockpit if we wanted to by adding on a vent here to push it into the cockpit while using these conveyors. Also give us the ability to use a medium cargo container here rather than the small one. Like I was saying, we'll use the medium to help us out here. So the medium will slap on the back of this. What we want to do here is we want to make sure that this is facing downward, and the reason being for that is so that we can put the connector on the bottom of this, like I was saying before. That's where I made my mistake. I was trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to place this, and I wasn't realizing that the 1x1 doesn't really work for us in this situation. You're going to need the medium one instead. So let's see if we can get this turned the right way. There we go. So that'll match up with the conveyor there for the small entry point on the cargo container, and then also facing down to place our connector at the bottom of this, right? So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's get our connector on here. So here in the gas and logistics, you'll find the three pieces here: the collector, the connector, and the ejector. We need the connector so that we can connect that right to our base and then pump in the stuff that we do mine directly in. So we'll go ahead and add that to the bottom of our medium cargo container. Slap that on there. And at this point, you're going to want to try to fill in some of this stuff here, because you are going to start building around all of this. We want to make sure we get all of our core components. So let's make sure we get these kind of all exactly what we need with them. We're going to need to get motors and stuff for all of this. There we go, we got all our motors, and that'll be done there. We need a few more interior plates, and I should always have interior plates and steel plates on you. So this many times, it's the rule of thumb in this game is to make sure that you have the interior plates that you need in your inventory, so you don't have to go back and forth like I just did there. And now that's connected, and then this here should have enough to get that all built up. And our energy low. Alright. Alright, so we're back. We got our energy. We just got a few more pieces to throw into the config here. We can get that all built up, and that should be enough. We could use the bulletproof glass. We don't need that right now. So now we have a nice little foundation here. We're going to need to add on a few of the core components that we're going to need. So we're definitely going to need some drills on the front of this guy here. There is a connector, a small connector on the front, so we can definitely get our drills going on here. And you want to get that lined up with that connector, just like so. So with that lined up there, you have one drill, and then you can place these guys right along the side, because it does have the small connectors on the side of this. You can see that right there. Let me get this flipped around the right way. Just like that. You can place one on each side. So once we have the drills placed here, then we can go ahead and get our battery on here as well. We're going to want to stick the battery to the top of this guy here. We could just use one battery. Like I said, we have the connector on the bottom, so we will be connecting to the base to charge it. And then from here, a couple more pieces that you're definitely going to need. If we want to add that air collector, you can kind of put another conveyor here and then have it come up through the top there. But we're going to add in our ore detector here. We get our ore detector, put that right on there, and we will do that. I guess that right there is pretty good. And then we'll want to get an antenna on here as well. We can do an antenna now. We'll just plop that right on the bottom of this guy. Just like that. It doesn't have to be any particular way. There's no particular order to put this stuff in as well. I mean, you can kind of place it any way you really want to when it comes to all of this stuff. But that's pretty much like your core components that you're going to need on here, realistically. And then we can talk about like the thrusters in order to get this ship flying, which we'll go over in a moment. Alright, now that you got all of that welded up, now you can go ahead and start placing your thrusters on here. You're going to need enough thrusters to kind of steer the ship. Oh, wait, forgot one major and very important thing on here is we're going to need our gyroscopes. Can't believe we forgot that. Don't ever want to forget these. Now, they're not absolutely 100% positively necessary, but it's going to make controlling this ship a heck of a lot easier. I recommend at least 2, but in this case here, we're going to stick 4 on here so we have nice movement all around, and we're not getting ourselves in a crazy bind here. We're trying to make sure that we can fly the ship properly and running into any issues. Get all that stuff welded up. We had all the other stuff welded up, and we'll get these going, and then we'll bring it back in to start working on those thrusters. Glad I mentioned that. Almost forgot these. That's a big miss there. If you do forget these, you're going to have a very bad time flying the ship. You're not going to have much stability, and they're kind of an important component in flying. Can't believe I forgot those. Those are completed. So now let's get those thrusters working on here. The way I like to kind of do this is we're going to do a large thruster on here facing downwards. And what I mean by that is I'll show you right now. Let's go into our ship essentials. We have the atmospheric thrusters. You have large, and you have a regular size one here, or a small one, whatever you want to call that. We're going to start with the large one. We're going to place this guy right on the back here, and we're going to make sure that we get it facing so that if we take a look at this guy, I will show you a couple different ways to do this here. So this part here needs to be facing up. So that's what we're going to do there. We're going to face that up like that and plop that on there. These take a lot of components. There's a lot of motors that are needed with this one here. So you have like 90 motors for this one large one. And then what we're going to switch over to the small ones here. And these have to face in kind of every direction, basically, in order to get your forward thrust. So these need to have that jet piece towards the back. We'll place a couple of these down. Got 4 on there for the forward thrust, basically, and then we're going to get a few for Directional thrust, we could throw these right on top. You want these to face kind of in either direction. Now, important piece here is that these engines here, when they're facing this outward facing piece here, will cause damage, right? So it can damage components on the ship. It can damage even yourself if you're standing behind it. It will burn you and kill you. You want to make sure this is sticking out enough so it's not basically blowing into any of the components on the ship, any parts of the ship, so it doesn't destroy your ship. So you just kind of want to get these lined up in a nice enough way. This kind of will work here for this one. And then we'll do... Actually, let's change that up just slightly. We're going to do this in a way so that we have the ability to put 2 for each direction on here, more or less. So let's do it like this. And then we can go to the other side there. And have these face the opposite direction. Just like that. So now we have facing backwards, facing left and right, and then we need some for the front of the ship as well. You can kind of place these really anywhere at this point. We'll put one on this side here. I'm going to take these off here. I don't want these kind of sit on top of each other. I'm really not thrilled with them being in that spot, to be completely honest. All because of the fact that they are on the drills, and when you're going into the ground, you're going to kind of be scraping these things. You'll probably do some damage to them. They'll probably be better placed over here, but I put 2 there for now. And then we'll work on getting, if those don't work out for us, when we start doing the money, we can always change that. And again, you can always do a different design as well. But this will work here because, again, kind of the example I was talking about before is where you need just kind of like about 2 blocks, more or less, over, where you're not going to have this hurting any or doing any damage to the drills. There's enough space here for this to kind of sit there, and if we put a couple up above it, it's still the same thing. Nothing there for it to be damaged, basically. Now what we're going to do is make sure we get these all welded up, and then we will bring it back in once we have that completed. Being completely honest here, this is probably overkill for the amount of thrusters that we have on the ship. We probably don't need this much facing it in all these directions. You probably could just use 2 facing every direction, probably more than enough. But overkill is not bad. It'll help you control the ship a lot better as far as having enough thrust and power to do so. I'm going to get this welded up, and I will bring it back in when we are completed. Just a quick little tip here. When you're doing this kind of construction here and welding up, always want to start with like your heaviest components first, so you can always see what those components weigh by when you're in the cargo container and kind of hovering over them with your mouse or pointer there, cursor in the middle. On here, what we're doing is we're making sure we get the large steel tubes and the metal grids in, and the steel plates if we can, before anything else, because those are the heaviest components, and it's going to take a lot of trips back and forth to do that, as well as motors. Motors can kind of tend to be a little bit heavy too, because you need so many of them in order to place into a lot of these motors. Need about 18 each, so quite a bit of motors. So I was talking about here, you can kind of see what these things weigh when you're looking at them, and they cost a lot of your inventory space. You want to make sure you have that space. Always get rid of those first. They tend to be the heaviest. Again, these are pretty heavy too. And then your steel plates would kind of be the next one on there, as well as like interior plates can kind of get heavy too as well. Alright, so we're coming in here. We got our last thruster to weld up. Let's get that welded up. Now, important thing to note here with this is we're going to kind of take a look at the fan side of this, the turbine side of this, if you will. When we get this all the way welded up, you'll see it starts spinning. These are default on, so as soon as you build them and make them functional, they will turn on and they are powered up right away right there. And then now we're going to go ahead and get our connector here set up. I already kind of placed it. We need steel plates, and we need some small tubes and construction plates and all sorts of stuff here. Alright, so let's get this connector welded up, and that is all ready to go. So now we can park the ship right on top of that and connect it. We'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Let's get on over to our ship here though, and we're going to get things working on this. So we have this completely done. We have all the thrusters that we are going to need on it, probably overkill for what we're trying to accomplish or do here. Again, these might not work out, these thrusters. I just popped them on there just to kind of show you to build what you're going to need. And like I said, you can kind of change that design. You can change this design altogether if you want to. These are just your core components of what you're going to need in order to get yourself ready to go in mining. So X button here into the cockpit, and let's get a few things here set up right away. So what you want to do is go right away into your control panel. You'll see all of your components that are here. And before we take our first flight, we're going to have to cut this loose from our building platform as well. But before you take your first flight, you want to kind of get everything set up nicely for yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ahead and get all of these drills by holding down the LB button. You're going to select all of these drills by pushing down on the D-pad. You're going to come over. You're going to create a block for this. And I guess we could just call it like ship drills, right? When you get your ship drills, you get them all selected up. You're going to go ahead and come down to save, creates a new block. When you come over into your grid blocks over here on the control panel, you'll be able to see the ship drills at the beginning. When you turn that on, it'll turn all three of them on at once. You can see that right there. It'll pretty much do some nice vibration for the ship for you. But you can see those three are turned on. So that'll get you rolling as far as that goes. Don't want to pause the game there. Come back down. We can go into here and turn those ship drills off by hitting the X button. Now, there's an easier way to get these drills working for you. You do have your kind of like your tool belt here, or your action bar, if you want to call it, the radial there in the middle of the right middle of the screen. If you push and hold up on that, you're able to kind of get all those drills together on one of those buttons while you're flying, so it's kind of easy to turn them on and off without having to go through the control panel while you're flying and everything else to get those turned on. So when you're in this screen here, if you RB or LB, you'll go down to groups, and you can see the ship drills are in the groups there. And you're going to select that, and you're going to D-pad down to toggle block on or off. When you do that, it places it in there, so when you push up on that, on the D-pad, that will get your drills going. So in order to do that again, you're going to press and hold on the direction you want to use. So we'll do it again. This time we're pushing and holding on the left. We're going to go RB down to our groups. You go select your ships, you select on-off block, toggle block on or off, and then you'll be able to get those rolling and working for you. So there you go. Alright, so now it's time for our inaugural flight here. Let's get ahead and get ourselves up here. We're going to flap a little bit, and we're going to get nice and close so we don't do any damage to the ship. We just want to get that one off there. There you go. You take it out, you see the ship drops down slightly, but that large thruster on the back is keeping us afloat. All the other thrusters are working for us. Now, there is the dampeners on here, which kind of helps keep it steady and kind of gives you your braking as well. In order to fly the ship, it's kind of like, you know, the jetpack. So A button to go up, the B button to go down. It'll bring you down. Make sure you go slow. Do not want to go too fast. And then to go forwards and backwards is on the L stick. Forwards, backwards, you can go left, and you can go right as well, right? You can turn the ship by using the right stick to kind of point in a direction that you want to go in. Super easy there. I like using third person when I'm flying, and you can bring that camera out a little bit. You don't have to have it necessarily right on top of you. And maybe even drop it down a little so you can kind of see more in front of you. But that's pretty much your ship right there, right? If you want to take a kind of look at it all the way around, we'll give you a nice camera view of all of it. That is your basic miner right there. I mean, it's super simple. This guy will serve its purpose to do what we need it to do. We'll go collect a bunch of ore. We'll get over to the rocks right there in front of us and drill right to the side of the mountain to get a bunch of stone. Another way to kind of collect resources, but also help you get the other resources that you need, like iron or cobalt or magnesium or silver or gold specifically, or silicone if you want those. Alright, so let's go ahead and fly forward here. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're flying not too fast. You don't really want to go too much over 40 meters per second, 45 meters per second. Again, rule of thumb here with this is for every second it takes you to speed up, it takes you to slow down as well, right? So you want to make sure that you're not going too fast. Go up to 100. You can go all the way up to 100 meters per second, which is really fast. I mean, if you want to put it in American terms, it's like 200 and something miles per hour, right? So think about that, and then slamming into the side of a rock face here. We do have an ore detector on here, so we'll be able to detect some ore if there was here any in the side of the mountain. You can see how that fills in as we get nice and close. You'll get more detail. When we do get that kind of close, all right, so we're about to start our drilling here. We're going to hit our D-pad up. We don't have much flight time here, so we definitely want to be careful, and we don't want to get this ship too heavy, otherwise we won't be able to get back to the base. We're We're going to get ourselves in here. We're going to do a quick little mine, just to kind of show you how it works. We're going to do a little rotate back and forth here. You'll see you'll be able to grab a lot of materials here very, very quickly. We're done with that there. We don't want to carry too much. We don't get this ship is probably not going to be able to handle too much of it, so we don't want to get ourselves overloaded to the point that we can't handle what we have. Just want to get ourselves back to the base so we can get charging on the battery because it doesn't have much power in it. You see down there in the right-hand corner, about 3 minutes of flight left here, and we're going pretty quick here, so we're going to need to slow down rather fast here and get ourselves positioned. So we already passed our base and where we want to kind of connect up here, right? So let's get ourselves rotated around. Again, we're going to go back into our other view here so we can see a little bit better. And we want to get this just kind of lined up with our connector. You may want to change your camera view for this so you can kind of see a little bit better. As you do this, it does take some getting used to. It does definitely take practice. You will get better and better at this to get this connected up. I like to move the camera around a little bit, like I said, to kind of get myself lined up here. And you'll know, once you see yellow, it's good. You hit your Y key, you are locked up, it turns green, and your ship is now connected. So everything that was in there will start going into the large cargo container, and you will be able to do your production. You'll see all the production go through. You'll see all the stone come out. There's a stone that we just picked up. It went into the large cargo container, back into the basic refinery. Nope, didn't go into our regular refinery, just the basic refinery. We didn't get that much of it. But we're also connected so that now, you see that green, it'll charge up the batteries for us on the ship, right? So if we take a look at the control panel, we'll come down. We'll take a look at the batteries that we have here. So we do have the red battery is the one that's on the ship. You can see it has 9 hours till it's fully recharged. You can see the power that's stored in there. That ship there, you're probably going to want to put another large thruster on there. Maybe knock that one out and put two side by side. If you try to collect everything that this will hold within the cargo container, the connector, and in the drills, it'll be too heavy for it to fly with just that one large thruster on it. And I'm not really too sure about like what's the weight to power on these things. Honestly, I've never really dove into it that way. I'm sure that information's out there somewhere about how much it can handle. But that's kind of really much what you're looking at. This is really basically just a quick kind of little guide on how you can get this thing rolling for you. And yeah, that's it. So that'll do it for this one, folks. I want to thank you guys for stopping by and checking us out. I mean, leave a like for the video. Always helps the channel. We are growing and we want to continue to grow. I thank you guys. Leave your comments below if you have questions or if there's something you specifically want to see built or kind of put together, or you want to see how something works specifically. Let me know down in the comments below as well. I'll try to see if I can put a video together that kind of compensates that. I think what we're going to do in the next one is kind of get this base built up a little bit more, and we're going to work on getting our first spaceship going. We're going to go into space next very, very soon. We're going to have to gather a whole bunch of resources. We'll get this thing worked on so that it's going to meet the standards that we needed to meet in order for us to really mine and get what we need to resources-wise without crashing this thing into the ground because it's too heavy to hold its own weight, basically, you know? But that's it. Thank you, guys. Again, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye now.